Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. My name is Jean-Michel Carré. I work for Tiger Technology as a technical sales consultant for Southern EMEA. And I will be very happy today to present you our technology and how to future-proof your data strategy with hybrid cloud infrastructure. I remind you that the session will be recorded. There is a Q&A button which is available for you, so you can ask your questions and we will answer these questions at the end of the webinar. First of all, I would like to discuss about our strategy. Our strategy is that there are a lot of customers today who are still running their workflows on premises, and by doing so, it is a little bit difficult for these persons to move to the cloud because they are afraid by disruption of service, and they're afraid by moving to the cloud. So if we can bring a solution which is going to help them to stay on-prem, but starting to put a step in an hybrid cloud solution, that will be extremely important for them. We are going to enable these companies who are primarily still in the on-prem-first mindset to adopt cloud technology without re-architecting the workflow and without re-architecting their infrastructure. So they want to continue to work as they work today, particularly for the users, but the data will start to be used and to be stored in the cloud. Tiger Technology, we are a company which is almost 20 years old. We're headquartered in Bulgaria. We have different points of presence in Europe, and we have a subsidiary in the USA to cover the North America market. We are specialized in storage management. We are specialized in hybrid cloud file data services. Before the cloud was really there, we've been developing solutions which are doing data migration, space reclamation from disk to disk, disk to tape, to deliver the best objective to the customers, which is to optimize the way they store their data. We're about 60 people working for the company with more than 100 petabytes of data under management with about more than 1,000 customers. TigerBridge is our flagship product. We have other products. I will refer to these products during the presentation. But with TigerBridge, we built our product on 4 key pillars. The first one, we don't want to introduce disruption in the existing infrastructure, in the existing workflow at the customer site when they start moving to this hybrid configuration. We don't want the customers to be locked to us. We want to make them free. So it means that you can use TigerBridge. If you stop using TigerBridge, the data created, managed, moved to another location by TigerBridge will be available without using TigerBridge. Of course, not as simply and with a little bit more of work to do, but the data will be available. We don't want to add complexity, and today you add complexity if you add additional hardware to deploy a solution. So TigerBridge is a software-only solution, so it does not introduce an additional complexity in the existing infrastructure. And last but not least, we're going to deliver cost optimization, because the fact that the data will be split between on-prem and the cloud will definitely deliver a significant drop in the cost of the storage solution. So TigerBridge brings a lot of capabilities. As I said, this is a software-only solution, and it is going to extend an NTFS, SMB, NFS local storage solution to the cloud and to the cloud of your choice. We are not going to be offering the support of one only cloud provider. We work with the different cloud providers. I will give you the list in a few slides. And we're going to create a single namespace between the on-prem storage and the cloud. And you know probably that in the cloud, a lot of cloud providers that are offering different tiers of storage, and we work with the different tiers when they are available, again, to deliver the best for our customers. When we talk about data, it is critical to talk about data permissions, data protection. And for the data permissions, the metadata, they are going to be preserved while they will be stored in the cloud. So in some cases, if you have lost your local infrastructure, you can resume and rebuild a new server. You will retrieve the data from the cloud, and you will also retrieve the associated permissions to each and every file. So it works with the services which are working in the cloud, all the analytics tool, artificial intelligence tools. It's native on Windows servers. So it supports all of the nice features people like with Windows, Active Directory, DFS, VSS, etc. And more importantly, using Tiger Bridge will be totally transparent for the users and the application. So there is no need for additional appliance, no proprietary format. Of course, like as it is a must-have today, we have an advanced set of anti-malware tools to protect against data ransomware attacks, and the communication between the on-prem and the cloud will be secured by HTTPS SSL transfer. And as we are in Europe, the solution will be GDPR compliant. So a lot of customers, probably some of you are end user customers, some of you are more reseller solution providers to your customers, but all the customers today, they are facing with the growth of data. And the local storage is usually a bottleneck. What to do? Should we have to buy additional disk enclosures? How can we better predict the data growth? Yeah, but to move in the cloud, sometimes you need to have some in-house expertise, which is not always the case. So if in this situation, you're forced to buy additional hardware, that's definitely not good for your budget. You have to fill some gaps in terms of skills regarding security, compliance, cloud, etc. And this is what Tiger Bridge is going to deliver. Tiger Bridge is going to deliver an intelligent data management solutions with intelligent tiering, moving data between on-prem and cloud, back and forth, totally transparently for the users. We support also long-term archiving when it is supported by the cloud provider. And we support data protection because you all know that whoever is your cloud provider, the data durability, the fact that it is almost impossible to lose data, is provided by the cloud provider. There is no disruption because the software is installed on Windows. We introduce the cloud totally transparently for the users, so there is no disruption for the users. And it's clear today that the cloud storage is a lot cheaper than on-prem storage, so it's going to optimize the cost of the storage for the infrastructure and for the customers. What are the use cases? Definitely, the most popular use of Tiger Bridge is about capacity expansion. How can I better manage my data? How can I avoid to buy additional disk enclosures for my local storage? Simply because with this data management software, which is Tiger Bridge, I will be able to make a copy of my data in the cloud and to remove the least used data from the local storage, although they will be totally accessible, available to the users in a transparent manner. As the data will be entirely replicated in the cloud, should a disaster happen on the on-prem infrastructure, it will be possible to resume operations as quickly as possible. So there will be a global file system between on-prem and cloud. And if you work with a customer where people are distributed across multiple sites, all of the customers, the users in the different sites, will be able also to share the same set of data. We are offering a SaaS service. We are offering a SaaS usage model. You will pay the Tiger Bridge solutions as you go on a monthly basis based on the capacity which has been consumed. And we have also the possibility to offer you capacity reservation so that you pay in advance for 12 months in order to make your management of your cost a little bit more flexible. So software-only solution, non-disruptive integration with cloud services, no need to re-architect the workflow because for the users, everything will continue to work business as usual. They even will never see a big performance degradation because the data are in the cloud. They will never see the performance degradation simply because the solution which we use is pretty smart. So we access the right portion of the file. I will show that in the demo. And so that there is no performance degradation. We have strong partnership and we are recognized by this strong partnership, big names. We have a strong partnership with Microsoft Azure, which is providing cloud storage. Of course, we have the similar partnership with AWS, Amazon Web Services. We have been also recognized by some big vendors, particularly in the video surveillance market. We were rewarded last year by Milestone as the solution partner of the year. Why video surveillance? Because we all know that with video surveillance, it creates a lot of data. The video, the resolution is becoming higher and higher. And today, more or less in the world, the data will be kept for at least 30 days. So this is a huge amount of data to store. If you can put this data in the cloud, again, you will save a lot of money. So cloud providers, we work with all of the big vendors, the big names like Amazon, Azure, Google, IBM, other small players, but which are very interesting, like Backblaze, like Wasabi, solutions like Live, which is from Seagate, and all of the other S3 compatible providers. There are several of them now which are in the market. They are offering S3 compatible object storage in the cloud, but there are also other companies which are offering S3 compatible object storage on-prem. Could it be IBM Cloud Object Storage, Scalability, Seagate, Spectra, some other minor players for on-prem object storage. And last but not least, and this is something we have to think about it, some customers, they are still reluctant to use cloud, or maybe for some security reasons, because they work in a very secure, protected market for defense industry or things like that. So the customers they are delivering a solution do not want to know that the data will be in a public cloud. We support, and that's what Tiger Bridge started to support back 12 years ago when it was developed. Local storage, moving data from a high-speed, high-performance, expensive storage to a least expensive, high-capacity storage. And of course, LTO tapes. LTO tapes are, of course, supported by Tiger Bridge. So, well, our customers, how did they move to Tiger Bridge? We have a few customer success. I will share 3 of them with you on the presentation. There is a link which is pointing to our website, and you can download a better description than this single slide. Yokogawa is a large engineering company. They have multiple offices, particularly in the Middle East. And they were using Azure File Sync, which is not the best tool to use. They wanted to have a better system to do archive tier in the cloud, multi-cloud support. They wanted also to better control their budget. And they moved to Tiger Bridge in 2 steps. The first stage was the product adoption, burst for capacity. We're talking about several hundred of terabytes of data. So once they have installed Tiger Bridge, there are several hundred of terabytes of data they had have been replicated to the cloud. So this gives a little bit of ease of use for the local storage, because there is a space reclamation mechanism which is built in with TigerBridge. And then they worked on data orchestration. They worked in second stage also with the users in the remote locations. By installing TigerBridge in the remote locations, all the users are able to share the same set of data. TigerBridge is going to manage lock of file locking mechanism to avoid users to work on the same data at the same time. And at the end, Yokogawa reduced the cost of the storage by 60%. They were very happy, and particularly the CFO is very happy because the cost, the monthly cost, is predictable, and it became totally transparent for the user. Another market where it is important to store a lot of data, this is healthcare. All the hospitals, here this case is a German hospital chain, we cannot disclose the name, but they are generating 1 petabyte of data per year with Philips scanners. Philips is one of the big players in the healthcare industry. And the objective was to extend the capacity to Microsoft Azure. By doing so, they have a copy of their data in a secure, durable cloud storage solution, and they keep on-prem the most recent data. Solutions like Philips, and this is the same case in other industries like video surveillance, they are applications which have not yet adopted natively the cloud. So they run on Windows, and with the magic of TigerBridge combined with the Windows file system, the data will be replicated to the cloud. As of today, this German hospital is extremely happy, and they use only 20 terabytes of local storage when they have stored 1.5 petabyte of data in the cloud. So that I'll let you think about having 1.5 petabyte of hardware storage on-prem and the cost of what would be 20 terabyte on-prem and 1.5 in the cloud. It's clear that there is a huge cost saving, a better resource optimization, because probably before they put in place the solution, several hundred of terabytes of storage which have been allocated for other projects. And there was no disruption for the users. Today, when a user wants to retrieve a scan image, if it is not on the local storage, it will be recalled totally transparently and immediately for the doctors and the medical team to work on the data. Another market segment which is interesting, that's media entertainment. Again, you will be able to download detailed data sheet about this customer case. Media entertainment is creating a lot of data. Post-production is consuming a lot of storage. If you're limited to on-prem storage, that will cost you a fortune. If you can put data in the cloud and you have a system which is going to move the data between on-prem and in the cloud, that will definitely bring an additional huge cost saving. In this model, there are several issues. The first one is that not all of the applications for media entertainment run on Windows. They can run on Mac, they can run on Linux. And you have to collaborate with this. In this media entertainment business, there is a huge ecosystem with people who are specialized, for example, on creating subtitles to translate into another language a movie. So all of these persons, they have to collaborate together. And the fact that you can sync data between different sites also will be provided by TigerBridge. On the top, you can see TigerBridge, but you can see also TigerStore, TigerSpace, TigerServe, which are additional components of Tiger technology, which are going to make the glue between Windows, Linux, macOS, and TigerBridge, which is there to make the connection and the glue to the cloud. A little bit of technical details. I will show them in the demo, but just to make things a little bit clear. When you install TigerBridge on a Windows machine, here on the left-hand side, you will configure it to point to a cloud storage. Pointing to a cloud storage requires that you have an account and you have an access to a particular bucket. Installing TigerBridge is totally transparent. It does not need to reboot the server. And once you have configured the TigerBridge solution, the data will be replicated to the cloud. Being replicated in the cloud, they will enjoy the 16/9 data durability. It is impossible to lose the data. If you use some other providers which are providing geographic redundancy like GRS on Amazon and other similar vendors, that will also help to improve the solution. The goal is to reduce the capacity on the on-prem storage. Once the data will be replicated, you will configure what we call space reclamation. So it is usually based on file size, file age. And for example, after 1 month, all of the PowerPoint data, which are larger than 1 megabyte in size, will be reclaimed. So what will be left is what is referred as a stub file, which is a small pointer, which is giving the feeling to the users that the data is local, but indeed the data is in the cloud. And when the user double-click on the stub, TigerBridge is retrieving the data from the cloud in a very transparent manner and also in a very efficient manner, particularly when this is a large file. I will show that in the demo. Disaster recovery, this is something we don't want to see it happening, but it happens sometimes. It can be human error, mistakes. If you lose your server and your data, they are managed by TigerBridge, all the data will be replicated in the cloud. So if you want to resume your operations as quickly as possible, you need to set up a new Windows machine. It can be a virtual machine, of course. You install TigerBridge, you reapply the same configuration, which is pointing to the right bucket in the right cloud, and automatically the system will be able to read the content into the cloud. So it's not going to recopy and to repatriate the data to the local storage, but it will simply recreate the stubs on the Windows machine. So the users, they can start working. And when they have to work on the data, of course, the data will be repatriated on demand. And I will show you that you're not necessarily forced to repatriate one big file to work on it. If the application is able to work on a small portion of the file, we will just recall the appropriate portion of the file. Multi-site synchronization. This is extremely important. That's, for example, the Yokogawa use case, but we have many other customers like this. They work in different locations, but they work on the same project. So if you install TigerBridge on the different locations, and they all point to the same cloud storage, if a user in location 1 is modifying or updating a file, the update is being replicated to the cloud. And on the other server, there is a listening function, which is running as low as a few seconds. It detects that there is some changes in the cloud, and it will report the change on location 2, 3, 4, 5, up to N. And I know we have customers who have more than 100 locations, and they are all sharing data through the cloud. So this is extremely interesting to use this feature because it brings a lot of ease of use. It reduces the traffic of data between location 1 and location 2 because everything goes through the cloud. Again, when you receive a copy of the presentation, we have a nice video which is showing synchronizing data with Tiger Bridge, and it is extremely important to have this feature. Ransomware, the biggest threat of today's CIOs. We want to avoid a ransomware attack to put our infrastructure completely down. Tiger Bridge has different ways to prevent ransomware, or to be able to cure a ransomware if a ransomware attack is striking the solution. There are different ways. The easiest way, which is not necessarily the smartest way, is to enlarge the time after which a new file created on the local storage, or an existing file modified on the local storage, will be replicated to the cloud. For example, in this case, you see replicate files after 24 hours. So it gives you 24 hours before. If you detect ransomware in less than 24 hours, you know that the latest version of the file, which is on-prem, has not yet been replicated to the cloud. You can enable ransomware protection. It's part of the management tool of Tiger Bridge. When a ransomware is attacking your infrastructure, it will encrypt the data. By encrypting the data, there will be a lot of files which will be modified together. Tiger Bridge has a queue of files to replicate to the cloud. And in that case, if there is a trigger which is exceeded, in this case 600 files, it's supposed to be a ransomware attack. Hopefully it might not be, but depending on the workload you see on your system, you can adjust this value, and the safer is maybe to make it lower than expected. But in case the maximum number of files is exceeded, Tiger Bridge will stop working, so it will stop moving data from on-prem to the cloud. The third option, which is by far the best in my opinion, is to use the versioning. You know that in the cloud, you can enable versionings. So every time you modify the same objects or the same file, there will be a new version which is created. If there is a ransomware attack, all of the files, they will be modified because they are encrypted, so that it will create a new version of the file. So when you detect that your infrastructure is almost down, or a lot of data has been encrypted because of the ransomware, you will be able to revert to a previous location of your files. Okay? We can control the number of versions, and we can, of course, activate a previous copy of the files as long as the timestamp of the files is before the beginning of the ransomware attack. Last but not least, it's not available with all of the cloud providers. It's primarily available with Microsoft Azure, Amazon. I believe Google Cloud also offers these possibilities. These guys, they're offering the possibility of choosing different tiers of storage: hot tier, cool tier, cold tier. Okay. Hot for the hot data, very low response time, at very high cost. Cool tier, something intermediate, and cold tier, which is for the data which normally you do not want to have a need to access them, and it will be extremely cheap. A lot of customers, they are telling us, I know that these files, I will never touch them. After 2 months, I will never touch them. So if you start replicating your data on the hot or the cool tier of your cloud provider, then there is a service which you can configure and which will be performed by Azure, Amazon, or another provider. And you can define that data after a certain timestamp size they will be moved, they will be archived. If they are archived, they will go to the cold cloud tier. So you will drastically reduce the cost of your cloud storage. It's done at the cloud level, so there is no need to read the data and send them to the cold cloud tier. And additionally, you will save money. And for the users, depending on the way you configure it, but normally they will not be able to open a file which is in the cold tier. They will warn them, and depending on the permissions, they can, however, recall the data from the cold tier, which will bring back to a cool tier, or they will not be able, they will have to ask for someone, please recall me this data, I need them to continue my work. Okay, so let me show you a little bit the solution. So this is the Tiger Bridge, the configuration tool, configuration and management tool. It's pretty easy to understand. At the top level, on the right-hand side, you see the features, the license. I have a capacity of 2 terabytes. I'm using 530 gigabytes of it. I have all of the features. I support tapes. I support local target. I support cloud storage. And that's exactly what I need for my system. Settings, that's global settings. Delete replica when source file is removed. If I delete my file locally, do I want to delete the copy in the cloud? Yes or no? I selected yes. Keep replica versions. If I want to use versioning, I have to select this option. Preserve security descriptor on sync. That's particularly to save the NTFS permissions. On my PC, which is a standalone machine, I don't have such features, so I didn't select it. Allow partial updates is extremely important. If I have to work on a large file, but my work today is going to work on a small portion of the file, I am going to recall only this small portion of the file, and I will update only the small portion of the file in the cloud as well. I'm not going to select enable progressive retrieval, because if I want to be able to do partial updates, this is also to reduce the amount of local storage to be consumed. If I enable progressive retrieval, for example, I have to do editing on a large video file, which is several hundred of gigabytes. I have to work on 5 gigabytes of data. If I enable progressive retrieval, the time I do my job, I will have recalled several hundred of gigabytes of data. So it's both options available, but normally it's better not to use this one. Replication policy. Every time a new file is created or every time a file has been modified, 5 seconds later, the data will be replicated to the cloud. Of course, I can make the replication time a lot longer. For example, if you want to use this huge delay to protect against ransomware. But the best is to use a few seconds. Reclaim space policy. Here, it's a global value, but we'll see that we can change it for the different folders we will manage. Here, in that case, after 1 minute, all of the files which are bigger than 3 megabytes, I will do space reclamation. So I will leave only this small, tiny stubs, which is usually consuming 0 byte of data. And but I can decide to use it in a more realistic way. For example, I will do space reclamation after a week for data larger than 10 megabytes or so. It depends, but here for space reclamation policy, I make it, and the demonstration purposes, I make it very short. Now I have to configure my target. I will be there if I will have to configure a new folder. I will have to add a source, so I select on my system a solution, and I will select. Here I selected my folder, which I call Tiger Demo. I specified that the cloud I'm going to use is Azure. So to provide Azure support, I had to provide the URL, the account key to have access. And as on Azure, I have hot, cool, and cold tier. By default, I will put my data in the cool tier, which is the best compromise between performance and price. And I will also support the rehydration policy, because as there is an archive tier, I will be able to do archiving. And when I do archiving, the data will be moved to the cold tier, and they will be retrieved if I need to have access to this data with a standard priority, not with high priority. It's a matter of cost for the customer. And I selected this container 01 in this Azure account. Here I do the replication every 3 seconds instead of 5. I specified the archive policy. All the files which have not been accessed for more than 2 weeks, which are larger than 10 megabytes of data, they will be archived. I will show you how it looks like. I limit the versioning by count. I limit it to 3 versions. I can also decide to limit the versioning by age, so I can keep more versions of the file if I modify very frequently files. It depends. And there is a nice feature which is called soft delete. By doing soft delete, if a user deletes the data, the soft delete avoids the data to be for sure completely deleted for 2 days. So I give a grace period of 2 days to work with this kind of mistakes. So I said, oops, I work with my folder Tiger Demo. Here you see that there are different icons. When it is green, it means that the data is on the local storage. When it is blue, it means that the data, for example, if I right-click properties here, you see that the file is 4.97 gigabytes of data with 0 bytes on the local storage. There are other, with this snowflake, if I go inside our data, here with the snowflake, the data is archived. So if I want to access the data, I will get an error message, which is going to tell me that the data has been archived, and I will not recall this data. Oops. If I return to this 5 gigabyte zip file, we all know that to read the content of zip file, you have to read the beginning of the file, read the entire file, and reach the end of the file to finally rebuild the content of the zip file. If you have 5 gigabytes of data in the cloud, to repatriate 5 gigabytes, it will take a huge amount of time. TigerBridge knows how to behave when you open a zip file, and thanks to TigerBridge technology, when I double-click on this zip file, it will read the beginning of the file, and immediately it will jump. And I rebuilt my zip content totally transparently, and then I have to restore what I need to restore. I have no idea of what to restore. This is my core GPS software update. but I can browse and look at the data. What will be interesting, if I refresh my system, I right-click on the same zip file, and I see that on 4.97 gigabytes of data, I just recalled 64 kilobytes of data. So there is a huge saving because I want to restore one single file, which is maybe 10 kilobytes. I will recall 64 kilobytes to read the file content and another 10 kilobytes to really restore my data. So that's extremely efficient. And this is why I was saying that it is impossible, clearly speaking, for the users to feel the difference between data which are in the cloud compared to data which are still on-prem. I have other examples. I believe this is on this one. These are different movies. If I right-click on the properties of this one, it's quite big, 900 megabytes of data. My work is to do some modification on a small portion of the video file, which is there. I can stop it because I know that I have to go to the end of the video because I want to remove something or to do some editing here. If I look again now on the properties of this file, I can see that I record only 44 megabytes out of the 995 megabytes of data. So again, in terms of user productivity, optimization of the use of the local storage, there is a big saving because the user can work immediately on doing some modification on this piece of the movie, because what is between the timeline 0 and where I am now, which is, I don't know, 7 minutes, 18 seconds, the data have not been recalled to the local storage. I can do my work, and then when I save it, it will recopy, replicate in the cloud only the portion which has been modified. Here, I have other movies. I don't want to show you again a movie, but I can open this Word file. My goodness, encrypted, show me the money. So that's a way to illustrate that this file can be attacked by a ransomware. So, oops, sorry about that. If I right-click on the file properties and I look at versions, I see that I have 4 versions. So this one is infected by the ransomware, but the version created 2 days ago definitely cannot be infected by the ransomware. So I'm going to restore this data, this version of the file. That's the one which is active. And now if I open the Word, I retrieve my document. So I'm happy. I've been able to recover from a situation which is extremely critical. Right. So I don't want to spend too much time because we're close to reach the time which we plan to spend with you on this webinar. Just to finish, I want to give you a little bit of pricing information. We have 4 options. The first one, the starter option, is limited to 50 gigabytes, but you can use all of the features of TigerBridge. So this is a kind of trial account with a limited capacity, but which allows you to properly test the benefits of the TigerBridge solution. And then you can move to a basic solution. The basic solution does not support the cloud. It works only with on-prem storage, on-prem tapes, on-prem object storage, but not cloud storage at $3 per terabyte per month. The most popular choice is the continuous data protection, $9 per terabyte per month. So it works with the cloud, but it does not support the multi-site synchronization, which is at $13 per terabyte. This link, you will find a lot more details on the pricing of Tiger Technology and Tiger Bridge. How can you buy Tiger Technology products? We are a software company, so the channel is key for us. It's key for our success, but it is also key for customer satisfaction because they can deal with a local partner. They know the company, they know each other, so they will deliver a good job and a working solution. We already have a large network of resellers in EMEA. We are looking at hiring new resellers. So if some of you on the call are typically a service provider, potential resellers, feel free to contact us. And in any case, we will contact you because you connected to the webinar. And we will present you our reseller program. And you will enjoy a much better discount than you enjoy with similar kind of solution related to the cloud environment. If you're an end user customer, you can contact us and we will introduce you again to the most adequate reseller to serve you in the best way because of geographical proximity, because of relationship which may exist between you and a particular Tiger Technology reseller. And we're also in the process to hire distributors, which will increase our way to address both the channel market and the end user market, and to deliver a better services to you. We reach the time for question and answers. I don't know if you have questions, but I see that there are some questions which have been asked in the chat. A question is about the granularity to configure space reclamation. I believe I showed that in the product demonstration. When you configure space reclamation here, it is primarily based on file size, file age, and you can overwrite the file age and file size in case the local storage is becoming full. I see another question, which is about multi-site synchronization. Is it going to work if the sites are geographically dispersed? Yes, that's exactly the purpose of the multi-site synchronization, because all the users in the different locations, they will access the data through the cloud. So the delay, the response time will be pretty much equal, and you can make sure that by your proper configuration, which is again in my configuration here, in my settings, I can configure, I didn't configure it, sorry, on this one. You can configure the synchronization. Okay. Add synchronization, and I can listen every minute to the solution. I see another question. I have technical question, I have sales questions. This one is about video surveillance. Is there a special packaging? Yes, we have a special packaging for video surveillance. And we have a new website which is called tiger-surveillance.com, which is promoting Tiger Bridge, but dedicated for video surveillance applications. Why do we have a different product and different packaging? Simply because here you have seen that the user interface of Tiger Bridge is a user interface for system administrators. Here, with Tiger Surveillance, there will be system administrator, but there will be primarily security managers, and they are managing security, they are managing cameras. So it will be much more interesting for these persons that the system talks a video surveillance language. What sort of cameras are you using? Axis, another camera. What is the CCTV solution you're using? Milestone, Genetec, any other solution? So that's why we have a different packaging for video surveillance. And this is very interesting. You have to keep in mind that for video surveillance, the cost of the storage, if you do not use cloud, is about 30% of the total cost of the solution. And usually this is for 30 days, but after a few days of data retention, the data, they are barely retrieved. So if you put 90% of your video surveillance storage capacity in the cloud, you will drastically reduce the cost of the storage, and you will, in the same proportion, reduce the cost of the video surveillance solution. I like this one. Regarding ransomware, all cloud providers now support a feature called object lock. Does Tiger Bridge support object lock? The answer is yes. Object lock, in case you're not familiar with, is a way to provide immutability at the object level. I know that some other cloud providers, they do immutability at the bucket level, which is less granular than the object lock. But of course, we support object lock. You have to be careful when you configure object lock on your bucket with your cloud account. You have to respect a sequence. You have to create a new bucket from scratch and enable object lock. And that will prevent data to be modified. So every time you modify data, it creates a new object. So I have some questions which I believe I already answered about the resellers. To become a reseller, let us know. We will come back to you after the webinar. And if you're interested to become a reseller, we'll be pleased to introduce you to our reseller program. I know that in the presentation, I presented prices in US dollars. We're not an American company. We're headquartered in Bulgaria. We're in Europe. We're all European. We pay in euros. You can buy from Tiger Technology, Tiger Bridge, and you will pay in euros, and you will say, of course, again, in euros to your customer. And we do not do geographical exclusivity for resellers. That was another question. And someone says, I believe I am an end user customer. Should I buy a solution from a local reseller? Is it possible to buy directly from Tiger Technology? Clearly, the best way, in my opinion, is that you buy from a reseller. However, this is something we can discuss depending on where you're located and what would be the benefits for you to buy from Tiger Technology. The same question is, as well, hiring distributors. Can a reseller buy, however, directly from Tiger rather than buying from the local distributor? No, as long as there is a distributor in one country, we consider that the most efficient way is that a reseller buys from the local distributor. Of course, if there is no distributor in the country, you can buy directly from Tiger Technology. I believe I don't have additional questions. I believe I have answered all of the questions during the presentation. I believe now it's time to conclude this webinar. The webinar has been recorded. So as it has been recorded, we will make it available for the people who have not been able to participate. to replay. And if you liked the webinar, feel free also to share this with your colleagues or customers. I want to thank you very much for your time. We will be in contact with you, and we say you goodbye and talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.